There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will learn the lost magic, memory make. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale? I hope you enjoy. Itachi floated around in a dark space as a blue light surrounded his body. He floated deeper and deeper into the dark abyss. As the cold of the darkness sent chills down his spine. In the end, he spotted a tiny dark purple flame burning brightly in front of him. He reached out to it, and the moment his hand touched it, a violent surge of incredible, unimaginable power burst around him and the darkness grew. He felt sick, nauseated, dizzy, cold. It was as if all the happiness around him vanished in a blink of an eye, and everything was replaced by a big empty nothingness. Itachi widened his eyes in shock as he saw two gigantic red lights in the shape of eyes glaring at him. He could hear growling. It was as if he disturbed a beast from its slumber. Suddenly the red eyes vanished and floated as energy gathered into his hand. Itachi opened his eyes while breathing heavily and sweating. He was out in the woods sitting on a tree stump. He looked into his palm and saw a very small black sphere in his hands with rings around it like Saturn. He could feel the power. This small sphere was mightier than any attack in his arsenal besides the Susanoo. The sphere faded away and vanished from the palm of his right hand. Itachi felt exhausted, and almost completely drained of energy. What's happened to my body? Itachi thought as he couldn't help but wonder what this dark cold energy is. After having meditated for the entire day, he had come to the conclusion that although the energy did feel cold, it wasn't filled with malicious intent. In fact, it felt empty, mindless and neutral, as if it was nothing but a mindless beast and nothing more. Although whether it was dangerous or not could not yet be determined. He needed to test this new power on someone to confirm it, but who? Certainly, not one of his friends. That would be too risky. An enemy. Should Itachi risk hurting or maybe even kill a normal enemy? No. If a major threat ever were to show up, and this person is about to kill or harm his friends, only then would he act and use this power. Other than that, he would keep it suppressed and use it as a last resort. Itachi stood up, struggling to keep his balance as he felt almost completely drained of energy. He reached into his pocket and brought out a chakra replenishing pill. He had given a list of ingredients to Uchiha to see if it was possible to make any of these pills. And turns out it was. With the right herbs and plants she could make 5 within a week. He ate the pill and swallowed it. He began feeling his chakra returning to normal. He let out a deep breath before regaining his balance, and then he headed back to the guild hall. As Itachi walked through the streets of Magnolia, he saw various members of Fairy Tail rushing through the streets on their way to do a job. Guess it's that time of year again, huh? I wonder if we get any new S-class wizards this year. Itachi thought to himself. Out of all the people in the guild now, the ones who have the best chance of becoming S-class would be Natsu, Gray, Gajeel, Juvia, and Kana. I do wonder who the master will pick as candidates. Itachi thought as he stood outside of the guild's main door. When he entered, he was met by the sight of Urza and Panther Lily in his giant cat form, having a bout with their swords. Sparks flew from their metal. They moved at incredible speeds as they danced around with their swords. Sounds of their swords clashing into each other was heard all over the guild. They both leapt back and looked at each other with a grin. You're finished, Urza said as in a puff of smoke Panther Lily returned to his miniature state. It seems I can't stay in my original form for very long. Panther Lily wiped the sweat off his furry little head. Still, you're really something. That was truly impressive swordsmanship. Urza complimented. Not at all. If anyone was impressive, it was you. What'd ya think, Urza? This is Lily's true skill. Gajeel boasted on his new partner's skill. So, this is what this guild refers to as S-class skill. Lily said. If you want to see what we consider beyond that, you should see Oni-chan. Urza said and noticed that her brother just entered the guild. Well, speak of the devil. Oni-chan, do you mind sparring with me? Urza walked up to her brother while holding tightly onto her sword. Sparring? Through swordsmanship? Itachi questioned as he was skilled with using a sword. In fact, he had helped Urza train using one ever since they joined the guild. Although, he was confident that Urza surpassed him in that area a long time ago. Even though you're better at it than me now. I am, Urza questioned in bewilderment as she didn't seem to have noticed it. Of course, you surpassed me in swordsmanship a long time ago. I should know I taught you after all. Itachi replied with a small smile. Then can we find out? I want to see if you're telling the truth on this one. Urza readied her sword. Itachi let out a sigh, and reached his hand out to the side. Guess I have no choice. Itachi said as black summoning markings appeared in midair right in front of his stretched out hand. And in a puff of smoke appeared a handmade katana with a red sheath and handle. Why you still have that? Urza questioned with wide eyes. Flashback several years ago in the guild hall, Itachi sat at the bar counter with little tomboy Mira dressed in her old bad girl outfit. Come on cutie. Let's go on a job. Come on, take me on another S-class job. Sorry Mira, but I'm tired, maybe next time. Okay. Itachi said to the pouting little bad girl. Oni-chan. Urza ran up to him while holding something long that was packed away in paper with a bow tie around it. Here, I made this for you. Urza handed the gift to her big brother with a big beaming smile. Thank you, Urza. Itachi patted her on the head and accepted the gift. He opened it and found a katana with a red sheath and handle. I practiced making swords like you showed me. Do you like it? Little Urza asked excitedly. Itachi unsheathed the sword and studied it. It was very well made and very sharp from the looks of it. Itachi smiled warmly at Urza. I love it. Flashback end. Of course, it's the first gift I ever got from my cute and adorable little sister. Itachi said with a deadpan expression. Don't say that, it's embarrassing. Urza blushed faintly. But it's true. Itachi said with a deadpan expression. Whatever. Let's just start already. Urza shouted in embarrassment. Itachi hummed and unsheathed the katana and activated his Sharingan. He and Urza then leapt at each other and at immense speed began dancing around with their swords, sending sparks flying and letting out the sound of metal clanking against each other. Itachi used his Sharingan to keep up with Urza's strikes and blocking them and finding openings. Everyone who didn't bother going out for jobs or didn't know what was happening tomorrow looked in awe at this duel. Both Itachi and Urza were serious and moved so fast it was impossible to see their swords anymore. All you could hear was the sound of them connecting and see bright flashes of light coming from the metal. In the end, they stopped moving and Itachi's katana flew out of his hands and stabbed into the floor behind him. See, I told you, Itachi said as Urza actually looked shocked over the fact that she won. It wasn't the first time they had a sparring match through swordsmanship and Urza ended up victorious. In fact, it happened on the day Itachi declared that there was nothing more he could teach her about swordsmanship. However, she always assumed she only won back then because he was holding back. But now she knew that he wasn't and that she truly had surpassed him in terms of swordsmanship. Back then I didn't use my Sharingan, did I? Seems you have improved even more since back then. I'm truly proud of you. Itachi patted Urza on the head before going to pick his sword up and sealing it away again. Urza was left awestruck. She always looked up to Itachi and even had a goal, which was to surpass him, a goal she still carries to this very day. Or at least close the gap between their level of strength. Thank you, Urza uttered with a smile on her lips. Itachi walked up to the bar counter as Mira looked at him with a smile and gave a small giggle. What? Oh, nothing at all. Better watch out or she might grow strong enough to give you a run for your money. Mira replied. Perhaps, although that might already be the case. Itachi said with a warm smile. Itachi then turned to Kana, who sat at her usual spot while holding a large barrel of booze while looking quite sad. She still hasn't told Guildarts, huh? I sincerely hope that she can do it this year. Itachi thought. She's talking about leaving the guild again, isn't she? Yeah, you know how sensitive she gets around this time of the year. Mira handed Itachi a cup of tea. Hey, thanks. Itachi thanked her with a smile and drank the delicious tea. If she gets selected this year, I hope she wins. Mira said sincerely. Let's hope so. Itachi said. He felt a little guilty. He had trained Kana and several members of the guild before. Despite his efforts in training her, she never seemed to win. Then again, she did have opponents like Laxus, Urza, Mira Jane and Mistogen during all of her trials. Indeed, let's hope. Makarov hopped onto the bar counter. Still doesn't mean either of you should let her win this year. We know, Master. Itachi said. Anyway, I was hoping that I could discuss the trials with the two of you. Makarov said with a grin. Let me guess, you want us and the other S-class wizards as obstacles for the candidates. Itachi said and Makarov hushed him down. Keep it a secret, would ya? Of course, Master. They both whispered. Anyway, it will take place on our guild's sacred ground, Tenro Island. And you're correct, I want Mira, Urza and Guildarts to serve as obstacles for the first trial. But I want you for something else. Makarov snickered. Me? Itachi questioned. Since you're our top dog now and all, I was hoping you would be the final test. You will stay on the top of the island and wait for your challenger. I will let everyone know this from the beginning. If they defeat you, they become S-class. However, if they don't complete the other trials. You're free to go all out. The more they complete, the more you have to hold back. Let's say if anyone completes all trials, you can only use 30% of your full power. How does that sound? Makarov whispered with a proud grin. So, basically the more trials they complete, the more I have to hold back. I doubt Natsu will go along with that if he's one of the candidates, but okay. Itachi said, knowing the pink-haired dragon slayer will most likely rush to the top as quickly as he can. Well, they all have to complete the first trial before they can even begin climbing up to you. Makarov pointed out. Fair enough, so how much do I use if they only completed the first one? Itachi questioned. 80% should do, I guess. Makarov replied. I understand, master. Itachi nodded. Great. You will leave a few hours before the others. Makarov said and walked away. I wonder who's going to be competing this year. Mira questioned. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow, I guess. Itachi replied. Next day, most members of the Fairy Tail Guild were all gathered in the guild hall, facing a big stage with a curtain behind it, proudly showing the fairy tail mark on it. They were all waiting in anticipation for the master to announce this year of S-class candidates. Some were excited and anxious, and the newest members had no idea what was going on. What's all the commotion about? Panther Lily questioned. Beats me. Gajiel shrugged. Apparently the master has a major announcement to make. Wendy said with a little hint of excitement, wondering what it was, while she held her best friend, Charles, in her arms. I'm not interested, Charles said. This is finally it. Oh, I'm so nervous. Alzak said, looking rather nervous if he was getting picked this year or not. We tried really hard. Don't worry, Al, his crush Biska assured. Fidget. Natsu was very excited. Calm down, Natsu, Happy said. This tension is manly. Elfman grinned. Hey. Gray smirked. I'll finally learn the secret. Lucy said as she wanted to know why everyone has been so occupied with jobs lately. Juvia is so excited to watch lovely Gray-sama. Juvia looked over at her crush as she didn't really care about anything else. The curtains opened and revealed Master Makarov, Itachi, Urza, Mira Jane, and Gildarts. Master. The crowd cheered. It's about time. Hurry up and announce it. As per Fairy Tail's time-honored tradition, I will now announce the entrance for the S-Class Wizard Promotion Trial. Makarov announced and was met by the cheer of the crowd. S-Class Wizard Promotion Trial? Lucy questioned in shock. Now I'm fired up. Natsu let out fire around his body in excitement. Quiet, everyone, Urza shouted. Our master hasn't finished yet. Gildarts said, and the cheers died down. This year's trial will take place on Tenro Island, our guild's sacred ground. Makarov announced. Oh, your strength, your hearts, your spirits. I've spent the last year ascertaining them all. There will be 8 participants. Natsu Dragneel. Makarov announced. Yes. Natsu clenched his fist in excitement. Way to go, Natsu. Happy cheered. Gray Fullbuster. The time's finally come. Gray said with a grin on his face. Juvia Loxer. Huh, Juvia. Juvia was surprised by this as she hadn't been a part of the guild for very long. Elfman Strauss. Real men should be S-class. Elfman grinned. Good luck. Elf Nichin. Lizana encouraged her brother. Kana Alberona. Makarov announced, but Kana did not look happy about it. Fried Justine. I'll be the one to follow in Lax's footsteps. Fried brimmed with passion. Levi Magarden. At long last. Levi said with joy in her voice. Levi for the win. Jed and Droy cheered. Mest Grider. Makarov announced, and the attention was turned to a young man with short, almost shaved black hair, with a slight outlined widow's peak, and complete with mildly long sideburns. His eyes are bright emerald turquoise, and thin eyebrows. On the left side of his face he has 3 scars. His clothing consisted of a pinstriped jacket with a high open collar. The jacket had red and orange stripes. He wore simple black pants and white shoes. Oh, Mest. Man, he was so close last year. Members of the guild cheered. I didn't make it this year either. Alzak sulked while Biska comforted him. There's always next year, right? Itachi while on stage eyed Mest. He's back then. It's been years since Master sent him on that mission. The council must have asked him to spy on us. Well, not that I can blame him, he altered his own memories after all. From what I know, only me and the Master knows about this. Perhaps Gildarts knows as well, but I can't be certain. Well, it doesn't matter anyway. He's still a member of our guild whether he remembers or not. Itachi thought. So, everyone was trying hard to get picked for this. Lucy said as she kind of wished to get the status of S-class, although from what she heard around the guild it could be dangerous, so she would rather not. Wow. Good luck everyone. Wendy cheered. From this group, only one person will successfully pass. The trial will take place in 1 week's time. Shape up in the meantime. Makarov announced. How did Juvia get picked and not me? Gajeel questioned, feeling that this was outrageous. I've heard all about your standing in the guild. It sounds like you aren't really trusted. Panther Lily said. No, it's not like that. I can't say why, but it ain't like that. I wanna talk about it, but I can't. Gajeel said, referring to how he's working as a double agent, to find out more about what Ivan the Master's son is planning. Take it up with Urza. Lily suggested. You aren't ready yet. Urza smirked. Damn. Gajeel shouted. As we have some newcomers here, we'll go over the rules. Makarov said. The 8 chosen participants are to select a single partner within the 1-week preparation period. Mira Jane explained. A partner? Lucy questioned. Teams of 2 are gonna battle it out. Max said. Part of this trial is putting their friendship to the test. Warren said. There are 2 rules when it comes to choosing a partner. First, the partner must be a member of Fairy Tail. Second, the partner can't be an S-class wizard. Urza explained. Oh. Gajeel hummed. That essentially rules out people like Urza, Mira Jane, Itachi, and Gildarts, huh? Panther Lily said. Partnering with Urza-san or Itachi-san would make for an overpowered team. Wendy said, not noticing that her little feline friend looked worried about something, which did not go unnoticed by Itachi. We'll announce the details of the trial once we're on Tenro Island, but Urza will be serving as a hindrance again this time. Makarov announced. Huh, everyone questioned in fear. And I'll be hindering everyone as well. Mira Jane announced with a beaming smile. Huh, exclamation mark, quote quote. Don't tell me they have to beat people like Urza and Mira to become S-class. Lucy felt sorry for anyone who had to go through that. Well, apparently they do hold back somewhat, Max said, although that didn't make much of a difference. Now do you see why it's seriously tough? Warren said while sweating a little, glad he was not chosen. Quit griping. All S-class wizards have had to go through this. Gildarts said. Well, to be fair, there has been times where there only was one S-class wizard in the guild. It's even more difficult for them with all of us. Itachi said with an emotionless deadpan expression. Yeah, especially since you and I are going to be there as well. Gildarts grinned and various people in the guild paled, especially those who were having the trial. Hold on. Elfman paled. You don't mean. Happy looked more blue than usual, despite not being a candidate. Gildarts and Itachi are gonna participate too. Natsu questioned in excitement. Don't be happy about that. Gray shouted. The 8 selected members and their partners will gather at Harjan Port 1 week from now. That is all. Makarov announced, and the 8 members went around to find their partner. Natsu went with Happy. Gray, who made a promise with Loki a long time ago, had him be his partner. As Loki returned from the celestial spirit realm by his own accord so that Lucy would not lose any magic power, Freed picked Bixlo, and although Juvia wanted to be Gray's partner, she was a candidate and went with Lizanna. Although Juvia had the assumption that Lizanna was after her beloved Gray, and Elfman was upset that his sister didn't become his partner. Evergreen sent the big beast of a man intense stares, as she felt a little upset over not being chosen as Freed's partner. In the end she became his partner mostly because Elfman was terrified of her. And Gajeel decided that he would be Levi's partner as he wanted to fight in the trial somehow. Itachi looked over to Charles, knowing that the Exceed had the power to see glimpses of the future. Like the Exceed Queen, she must have had a vision of some kind since she looked troubled earlier. Itachi could only assume that something was going to happen during the trials and needed to keep an eye open for any danger. He walked over to the master. Master, could I have a word? What is it, Itachi, my boy? Makarov questioned, and Itachi began explaining. I see, so you think something might happen at the trial. That does sound troubling. We will need to be on guard then. Makarov said, looking rather serious. Later Mest managed to pick Wendy as his partner, pretending that he was an apprentice of Mistogen, and Lucy became Kanna's partner. A week later, and hours before the candidates were to arrive, Itachi, Urza, Mira Jane and Gildarts were on a boat on their way to Tenro Island to set up camp and get everything ready for the trial. The heat was intense, so intense that the 2 girls had resulted in getting into their swimsuits. Gildarts was laying on the deck of the ship looking like he was melting, while Itachi was wearing cargo shorts and a V-neck t-shirt. It's so hot, Gildarts complained, feeling that he was boiling under the sun. What can we do? This is how it is around this time of year. Then again, it's always like this around these parts. Itachi said as he was drinking ice-cold water to cool down. Yeah, we just have to deal with it. Mira said as she sat in a sunbed while drinking some ice-cold juice, while sweat ran down her hot curvy, firm body. Itachi unconsciously had activated his Sharingan. Burning in the images in your mind I see. Gildarts teased the Uchiha knowing full well from what Itachi had told him and the master about the Sharingan and the ability to memorize images. I don't know what you're talking about, Itachi muttered emotionlessly and deactivated his Sharingan. Still, this brings back memories back when I took the trials. It was such an intense battle. Urza said with pride in her voice. Yeah, I wonder if anyone will manage this year though. Gildarts smirked. If anything, I hope Natsu manage. The kid's been looking forward to this moment his whole life. If only you knew Kana was your daughter, I'm sure you would have rooted for her instead though. Itachi thought. After sailing for a few more minutes they arrived at Tenro Island and waved goodbye to the ship that went back to pick up the candidates. Well, we should head to the camping site and start unpacking, Itachi said as he and Gildarts seemed to be carrying all the bags. Aren't you two going to carry anything? I have the cooking supplies, Mira said holding a small backpack. And I have the tent, Urza said holding up a bag. We have to carry the rest then, Itachi thought with a sweat drop as him and Gildarts had at least 10 bags filled with so much stuff they looked like they were about to explode. Once they arrived at the camping site, Gildarts left almost immediately to go to his route where he would await one of the candidates as a hindrance. Mira and Urza finished unpacking and then left themselves, while Itachi went to the top of the island to wait as well, as he was the final trial. Guess I might as well meditate and find out more about that dark energy, Itachi said to himself and sat down with his legs crossed and let out a deep breath. A few hours later on the ship, which had returned with the candidates, it now had the island in its sight. On board the ship Makarov began explaining the trial. It is said that fairies once lived here on this island. And it is where Mavis Vermilion, Fairy Tail's first master, rests. Makarov was dressed in a Hawaiian shirt and wore shorts and sandals. What's with those clothes? Gray questioned despite being completely naked himself. Makarov went on to explain the trial's first round. See the smoke coming from the shore? You'll start by heading there. 8 routes lead there. Each route can only be taken by one team. And, along each route are these, Makarov said as a map the routes appeared next to him. Some marked combat, 1 marked serenity, and 3 marked intense combat with pictures of Gildarts, Urza and Mira Jane. Only the teams that get through here will pass the first round of the trial. Combat, Natsu questioned. It says intense combat next to Urza and the others' faces. Gray said. There's also serenity, Loki pointed out. On combat route, 2 teams will run into each other and fight it out. Only the winning team can move on. Intense combat routes are the most difficult of all, as they require defeating a current S-class wizard. On one route, the Serenity route, you'll get to pass the first round without fighting anyone. The point of the first round is might, and luck, Makarov announced. Wait, where's Itachi's route? Natsu questioned. Makarov snickered. I'm glad you asked. Itachi is the final obstacle of this year's S-class trial. You can go to him at any time at the top of the island and fight him. If you win you become S-class. However, if you go too early without finishing the other trials he will not hold back that much. What do you mean? Gray questioned. Well, since everyone has to complete the first round means that if you go to Itachi right away, he can only use 80% of his full power against you. If you complete the second trial he will have to use only 50%, and if you complete the third trial he will have to use only 30%. Itachi has probably planted his crows all over the island where we are having our trials by now, so he will be able to see if you finish the trials or not. I sincerely suggest you complete all of the other trails first, cause let me remind you Itachi using 40% of his power was still strong enough to take out a wizard saint level wizard like Jose and Jalal, not to mention Laxus. Oh, and don't worry, you all have until the end of the day to finish all the trials and beat him. Makarov grinned at the pale faces everyone besides a certain someone was making. Screw that, I'm going to him right now. He will fight me at 100%. Natsu declared with a wide grin and his fists covered in flames. Oi, Natsu, I don't think that's a good idea, Happy said. What? Of course, it is. Natsu grinned from ear to ear. Itachi was able to beat Gildarts and you always get one shot by him. You should fight him when he's holding back, Happy suggested. Nah, I will fight him at full power. Natsu is stubborn as always declared. That won't happen either way. If you try to reach him before you finish the first trial you will be disqualified. Makarov announced. What? Natsu questioned. See, So let's just complete the other trials. You will get to maybe fight someone else first like Urza or Gildarts, even though that's still suicide. Happy said to his best friend. Fine. Natsu grinned excited to fight Urza or maybe even Gildarts. Now, let's start the trials. Makarov declared. With Itachi sat meditating while letting out a blue aura around him. My crows should be able to warn me if anyone tries to infiltrate the island, unless they already are here. I have already detected the Magic Council ships in the distance, but nothing else so far. Itachi thought while tapping into the dark energy in him. He reached his hand out and formed the black sphere with rings around it just like the one he formed earlier. It was extremely small, yet it felt powerful. Itachi looked at the sphere trying to study it with his Sharingan. From what he could see, the sphere had more power than anything he had with maybe the exception of his Susanoo when it came to destructive energy. It feels as if I can tap into more of the energy, but if I do I risk losing myself to it. So, this is the amount I can bring out for now at least until I have mastered this energy. Itachi narrowed his gaze and tried to sustain the sphere but it vanished. Seems I can only hold it active for a certain amount of time. What's more, it feels like I just used 2 Mangekyo abilities at once. It sure drains a lot of energy but it seems to drain only the Ethernano part of my energy source and a little chakra mixed into it. And something else as well, the dark energy I assume. Itachi looked out on the vast ocean. I feel a familiar presence here on this island, but for some reason I can't recall it from anywhere. Itachi muttered to himself. Whoa, that was interesting. Itachi heard a new voice. He looked down and saw a little girl with long wavy blonde hair that reached down to her feet. She had large green eyes with no visible pupils, she had peachy skin and looked like she was a child. She wore a frilly, pink layered robe with a red ribbon tied into a bow around her neck. She also wore wing-like adornments around her ears, and she wore no shoes. She laid on the ground while kicking her legs back and forth in excitement. She had the look of a child seeing something very interesting. She stared at him in fascination. While Itachi stared at her in bewilderment and confusion. He didn't feel any ill intent from this little girl, only warmth and pure intentions. Still, who is she? Itachi blinked while the girl looked at him with a pure innocent smile. Who are you? And what are you doing here? Me. I'm Mavis Vermilion. The girl happily replied. Mavis. As in First Master Mavis? Itachi questioned. Yup. Itachi narrowed his gaze. But, you're supposed to be dead. I'm a ghost. Boo. Mavis giggled as she tapped her finger on Itachi's nose. Huh. Itachi questioned and activated his Sharingan. And found out, she was telling the truth. She was nothing but a mere spirit of energy, nothing else at all. Itachi kept his calm expression and deactivated his Sharingan. He had seen dead people get brought back to the physical realm before, heck he's even living proof of such supernatural occurrences. Okay, I believe you. What's with that emotionless reaction? Mavis asked with a narrowed gaze at this peculiar man. So, is your soul stuck here or something, First Master? Itachi questioned. Nope, I just love being here, although it gets a bit boring. Then I felt that energy you were releasing and I found it interesting and decided to check it out. Mavis replied with stars in her eyes. I know that you're from Fairy Tail, cause otherwise you wouldn't be able to see me. Only those who wear our guild mark can see me. What's your name? Itachi. Itachi Uchiha. Itachi huh, strange name. Why did your parents give you a name that means weasel? Mavis asked in a joking tone. I honestly don't know, and I don't care. Itachi replied bluntly. You should try smiling more. That face of yours would look better with a smile. Mavis beamed at him, smiling warmly. Itachi couldn't help but smile a little at the warm feeling the First Master was giving off. It was as if her mere presence brought joy everywhere. Yay, see such a lovely smile. Now tell me, how's Makarov treating the guild? Master Makarov treats everyone in the guild like family. He's like a father figure to all of us. He's even willing to do anything to protect his precious family as well. Itachi said with a warm smile. That sounds great. Makarov seems to be doing a fine job as master. Mavis beamed a happy smile. Yeah, his philosophy almost reminds me of something from my homeland called the Will of Fire. Itachi said as that caught Mavis's curiosity. Will of Fire? What's that? Mavis questioned. It's an ancient ideal from my hometown which has been passed down for many generations. It is said that anyone who wields the Will of Fire loves, believes, cherishes, and fights to protect the village, as previous generations have done before them, and their will is passed on to the next generation. It still lives on in my homeland, I even found it to be in fairy tale as well. Whoa, that sounds super cool. Tell me more, Mavis said with pure excitement. She truly was just like a child in that way, more than just her appearance. In the end, Itachi and Mavis ended up having a long discussion about the will of fire. Itachi didn't know why, but he felt comfortable talking to the first master, like he could tell her anything. Although he refrained from telling her the truth about him, that he was a clan killer and that he wasn't from this world. This was fun, thank you Itachi. Mavis smiled warmly at him. Itachi closed his eyes and returned the smile. Thank you, Master Mavis. When Itachi opened his eyes again, she was gone, like she just had vanished into thin air. I can't see her or sense her anymore. Did she return to the realm of the dead? Itachi questioned. He suddenly felt an immense amount of pressure coming from the island. Gildarts, looks like he's fighting whoever picked his route, Itachi said calmly as the entire island shook. All the birds flew away from the island besides for Itachi's crows. Now let's see who he is fighting, Itachi thought and closed his eyes, seeing through the eyes of one of his crows. Natsu. Itachi could see the frightened look on the dragon slayer's face. Natsu fell to his knees while sweating out of fear. Itachi could hear Natsu muttering that he accepts defeat. Gildarts then gave Natsu a speech to acknowledge one's fear to overcome your weakness and grow stronger, and then Gildarts passed him. Hey, that old man, he's way too soft sometimes. Itachi smiled. Through his crow he could see Natsu crying at Gildarts' words. Then again, that's not so bad sometimes. Itachi decided to see how the others were doing. Urza dominated Juvia and Lizana in their battle, showing no mercy. Lucy and Kanna had beaten Freed and Bixlo and managed to move on. Gray and Loki had beaten Mest and Wendy. And it seemed Elfman and Evergreen had somehow managed to get past Mira Jane. Guess I will have my clone inform me what happened later, Itachi said. As no one could have reached him before finishing the first trial, he had sent a shadow clone with 20% of his power to stay at the campsite. Itachi's crows noticed what looked like Panther Lily and Charl flying towards the island. Well, I guess that's not a problem, considering that they are members of Fairy Tail. Guess I should let them pass, Itachi thought. Well, this means the hunt to find the first master's grave is the next trial. I wonder if anyone will just rush up here immediately. Well, there is Natsu, of course, Itachi sighed as he wanted to relax a little longer. He saw through his crow that the moment the master told them to start, Natsu used Happy to fly towards the top where he was, like a rocket. And here we go then. Itachi got up as Natsu and Happy flew crashing down in front of him. Looks like getting your ass kicked by Gildarts wasn't enough for you, Natsu. Hey, I'm fired up now. Natsu let flames out around his entire body while glaring at Itachi in excitement. Let's see, that's one trial complete, that means 80% then. And you're lucky that the master requested me not to use any illusions, Itachi said. Hey, you can fight me at 100% Itachi. Cause either way, I'm gonna kick your ass and become S-class. Natsu charged at him with his fist covered in flames. Fire Dragon. Iron Fist. Natsu slammed his blazing fist at Itachi, who simply ducked, kicked Natsu's leg making him lose balance. Then Itachi spun his body around and delivered a kick to Natsu's chin, sending him flying. Natsu managed to recover and was grabbed by Happy. Happy, send me flying at him. Aye sir. You didn't learn anything from Gildarts, did you? Itachi looked as Happy flew with Natsu in his hands towards him like a rocket. Happy then dropped Natsu like a bomb and Natsu charged up flames around his entire body. Fire Dragon. Sword Horn. Itachi jumped back as Natsu crashed into the ground. Learn when you're outmatched. Leave and get another chance at me once you finish the other trials. Natsu leapt out from the crater he made in the ground and threw a barrage of punches at Itachi, who dodged them all with ease. Natsu kept charging forward and Itachi backed up. Just go. Finish the other trials. Come back and face me then. You all have until the end of the day anyway. Itachi kept backing up while dodging Natsu's punches. Yeah right. Like I will let the others get to you before me. Natsu shouted. Okay, fair enough. If I can defeat you in the next 5 seconds, you will go and finish the other trials, then come back, and if I don't, I will fight you for real, deal? Itachi said. Hey, deal, like you can beat me in 5 seconds. Natsu threw another punch as they were closing in on the edge of the top. 5, 4, 3, 2, Itachi was just at the edge. He then jumped up on Natsu's fist, leapt over Natsu and kicked him in the back of the head, sending him falling down. 1. Itachi looked down and saw Natsu crash into the woods on the island below. Natsu. Happy flew after him. Meh, a fall like that wouldn't kill him. Itachi went back to his meditation. Meanwhile with Itachi's clone, what? Elfman and Evergreen are getting married? Urza questioned in shock while she was making food. And then they attacked me while I was in a state of shock. Mira Jane said with a smile as she rubbed her cheek that had a band-aid over it. While Juvia and Lizana sat behind them and listened to their conversation, Itachi's clone sat next to Mira. Hold on. When is the ceremony? In fact, when did they start such a relationship? Urza questioned as always only hearing a few parts of the conversation. Oh, no, I think it was just a strategy to throw me off guard. I still have a lot of improving to do. Mira said. Still I'm a little surprised that they got you with that. Itachi said with a motionless expression. Anyway, you're sure it was just a strategy? Urza questioned still not totally convinced. It's hard to imagine those two being together. After all, if they got married and had a child, Mira began imagining what Elfman and Evergreen's child would look like and came to an image of a baby version of Elfman with Evergreen's hair. I'm a real baby. Then Mira all of the sudden began to cry. Don't cry Mira. It's kind of cute, depending on how you look at it. Urza said and Mira still cried. Aren't you going to comfort her? Lizana asked looking at Itachi. I would, but I'm not sure whether she's crying tears of joy or horror. Itachi replied with a sweat drop. While this happened Juvia was blushing at the word child and began imagining her in gray. By the way where is Fried and Bixlo? Lizana asked. They returned to the guild with Guildarts. Urza replied. Talk about impatient. They could have stayed here and watched the rest of the trial. Lizana grumbled. Anyway, where did Mest and Wendy go? Urza questioned. Yeah, they are late, Mira said as they began to look a little worried. Maybe they forgot where we're supposed to meet up. Lizana questioned. Mest. Huh, I never met him in Edalis so I don't know much about him. He joined during the 2 years I was gone, right? Did he? Mira questioned as none of them knew, since Mest had altered their memories. I feel like he's always been a member, Urza began thinking. He doesn't have much presence, huh? Lizana stated. Juvia will go look for them. She's a little worried. Juvia offered. I'll accompany you, then. Mira and Lizana, you two stay here with Oni-chan's clone. Urza said as Juvia pouted seeming to have an ulterior motive to find Gray or something. Meanwhile with Itachi was meditating. He tried to see if there was more about the dark energy he could discover. Once again, he was in front of a small black flame and reached out for it, and once he touched it, it released a huge amount of power that made Itachi struggle to hold onto it. He saw the huge red eye-shaped lights once more and heard the growling. What are you? Itachi shouted as the darkness wrapped around his body like tentacles. Itachi felt the darkness taking over. Then suddenly he felt a disturbing presence on the island. He woke up from his meditation while panting and sweating. Multiple enemies were approaching. Suddenly a flare was shot up into the sky. The guild's emergency flare. I was right, something was going to happen. Itachi narrowed his gaze when suddenly multiple cloaked people appeared around him, all with the Grimoire heart symbol on their masks. Grimoire heart huh? Itachi closed his left eye to see what a crow was seeing. He saw Wendy, Mest, Panther Lily, Natsu, Happy and Charl fighting a similar group of soldiers not too far away from him. Another image of Gray, Loki, Lucy and Kanna fighting off a group of people similar to the ones surrounding Itachi. He then looked out at the ocean and saw Master Makarov in his giant form punching a magic aircraft. Leave this place or face the consequences, Itachi said in a threatening tone, as he saw a goat man wearing a butler outfit, sunglasses, using a jetpack to fly over the island. He dropped small spheres that puffed into these guards. So, he's the one dropping them all around here. The Grimoire Heart soldiers charged at Itachi. Itachi was pelted with magic blasts from them, turning into crows that flew towards the goat man in a butler outfit. The soldiers looked in bewilderment when suddenly the entire area they were, was surrounded by paper bombs. The tags glowed and blew in a fiery explosion taking all the soldiers with them. The crows flew over the jetpack at the goat man's back and formed into Itachi. What? The goat man questioned when suddenly Itachi stabbed his kunai into the jetpack and once again vanished into a murder of crows. As the goat man and his jetpack flew crashing down somewhere on the island. The crows gathered into Itachi on a treetop, looking over at his giant master on the other side of the island, about to use fairy law. Time's up. He could hear Makarov's mighty giant voice all the way from there. When suddenly a darker light in the similar shape of the light fairy law was giving appeared. And then to Itachi's confusion Makarov undid the fairy law spell and was shaking in shock. What's going on? Why did Master cancel out fairy law? Itachi questioned in bewilderment. Master preked. He heard Makarov utter. Itachi looked with his Sharingan and spotted an old man with a long silver white beard and a mustache. Despite the look of the man's age, he was quite muscular. He had an eye patch over his right eye. He wore a dark shirt paired with armored shoulder pads and shiny gauntlets, light pants with flames near the edges, and simple boots. He had a dark cape and also wore a helmet. Prekt. Itachi questioned, having heard that name before. Ah, that's the name of our second guild master. Itachi clenched his fist as he had read about Prekt and all the other founding members of Fairy Tail. He founded the guild alongside Mavis and the others. Now he is the leader of Grimoire Heart. From the looks of it, I need to help Master Makarov. Itachi was about to turn into a pack of crows when suddenly he was slammed to the side by a young man with long yellow hair, with red eyes and a crazed grin on his face. He wore a dark yellow skirt-like armor with a red waist ribbon that exposed the right side of his chest as well as his right shoulder where his guild mark was. The man laughed manically. Got ya. The man gathered what looked like black flames around his fist and pushed Itachi crashing into the shore of the island. Flame God. Bellow. He roared out a massive wave of black flames at Itachi. Get out of my way. Itachi formed a red spectral ribcage around him that grew an arm that pushed the black flame wave to the side. Itachi had his ribcage Susanoo slam its fist into the man, sending him crashing into a pile of rocks. Itachi looked back to where the master was only to see that he was gone. Then an explosion was heard nearby them. I ain't letting you go. The blonde-haired man charged out with black flames covering his fist. I don't have time for this, Itachi said in a cold tone as another explosion was heard, this time from a different direction with screams to add. Itachi deactivated the Susanoo. He dodged the punch from this man that used black flames, stepped on his foot, grabbed him by the wrist and lifted it above his head, and swung his fist into his gut, making the man cough up blood. Seems he uses Slayer magic, and from what he called his attack earlier, I can assume this is the lost magic, God Slayer magic. Itachi thought and narrowed his gaze at the man. Who are you? Name's Zancro, and you have really pissed me off now. The man known as Zancro released a huge amount of black flames around him and Itachi leapt back. Flame God. Explosive flame. Zancro threw a punch in midair and sent a stream of black flames towards Itachi, who quickly formed the Yata mirror in front of him, reflecting the flames back at Zancro. What the? Zancro questioned as he was sent flying by his own blast. Zancro crashed into the ground far away from Itachi and growled in rage, when suddenly he saw his soldiers being beaten by Natsu. Oh, the salamander. I will kill him first, then take on that bastard. Zancro smirked and let out a malicious laughter. That's enough, I say. I will deal with him. Zancro laughed as Natsu looked at him, and a fight between a dragon slayer and a god slayer was about to begin. Meanwhile, Itachi rushed through the woods in the same direction he sent Zancro flying. He then saw Zancro devouring Natsu's flames. You can slay a dragon, but you can't slay a god, Zancro said. Flame God. Bellow. Zancro hurled out a massive plume of black flames at Natsu while catching Wendy and the others in the explosion. They were all sent flying down while Zancro laughed manically. Itachi leapt behind Zancro and kicked him down. You again. Zancro growled as Itachi leapt after him and slammed his leg into Zancro's gut. They crashed into the ground, forming a crater. Zancro punched a wave of black flames at Itachi, who vanished instantly. Damn it. Zancro growled when suddenly a dark portal opened beneath him and arms grabbed onto him, pulling him in. What is this magic? You're finished. This is where you die. Itachi's calm voice echoed around him as the sky turned red and crows flew around him. Die. Me. I don't think so. Zancro struggled to get away as he was sinking into the abyss. Damn it. What is this? Say goodbye. Itachi's voice echoed. For the first time, in a while, Zancro felt fear. What are you? Zancro shouted as he was sweating and trembling in fear. Then suddenly everything returned to normal and he looked around in confusion. Wait, what? An illusion? Looks like he decided to leave you in that illusion and destroy your mind and spirit. Prekt aka Hades arrived at the scene and Itachi was gone. If I hadn't knocked you out of it, you would have been done for. Master Hades, where is that punk? Zancro growled in rage. I don't know, he was already gone when I got here. Hades replied and looked at Zancro with a scowl. You disappoint me, Zancro. Go finish off that dragon slayer. Itachi Uchiha is too much for you to deal with, obviously. Hades walked away. What? No, I will crush that punk, Zancro declared. Funny, Coming from someone who was afraid of said punk a while ago. Hades said as he kept walking without turning a glance. Do as you please, but finish that dragon slayer first. TCH. Yeah, fine. Zancro growled. Itachi was leaping from tree branch to tree branch, still looking for the master. If only he had a nose like Natsu, Gajil and Wendy he could find Makarov easily. It was frustrating not knowing if Makarov was alive, but also if Mira and Urza were safe as well as everyone. Meanwhile with Itachi's clone Mira, Lizana and Itachi had fended off a group of those Grimoire Heart soldiers when suddenly. Get down. Itachi pushed both of the sisters back when suddenly an explosion caught Itachi's clone making him vanish in a puff of smoke. Good grief. It would appear that I got the short end of the stick, said a tall muscular tan-skinned man with thick brown hair and brown eyes. He had long sideburns and a goatee, he had a black streak going over his left eye and he wore crescent moon-like earrings. He wore a green leather-like armor. Back with the real Itachi, Mira. Lizana. Itachi had regained his clone's memories and formed a shadow clone. Go look for the master, I will go to Mira and Lizana myself. Itachi ordered his clone, which nodded and kept leaping in the direction Itachi was originally going, while the original Itachi leapt towards the direction where Mira Jane and Lizana were. Itachi's clone leapt through the forest until he saw a concentration of magic power. When he arrived he saw Natsu trapped inside a black flame sphere, while Makarov tried to crush Zancro's body with his giant hand gripping around him. This is bad. Itachi's clone was about to leap in, when suddenly Natsu began devouring the black flames around him. Impossible. How is he eating god flames? Zancro questioned in shock. I see, so there's a trick to eating some types of fire. Natsu glared at Zancro. You fool. Do you want to die? Makarov released Zancro and scolded Natsu. Natsu had his normal flames in one fist and black flames in the other. I don't wanna die, nor am I gonna let anyone die, we're all going back home together, to Fairy Tale, come together. Dragon and God flames. Natsu leapt over Zancro and gathered as much power as he could. Dragon God. Brilliant flame. Natsu slammed the two flames into Zancro sending the laughing maniac flying back, knocking him out cold. Alright, Natsu panted. I'm impressed, Natsu. Itachi's clone walked towards them. You really have grown, are you alright, master? Itachi tended to the dwarf of an old man. Yeah, I'm fine, but you're just a clone, right? I can sense it by the amount of power you have. Where's the real Itachi? Makarov questioned. Mira and Lizana got into a bit of trouble, so he's on his way to save them. Itachi's clone replied and Makarov looked at Itachi with a worried expression, as he knew how Itachi felt about Mira, and that this must be a very difficult time for him. He could see the worry in the young Uchiha's eyes for the two Strauss sisters' safety. Gramps, Natsu spoke. Let's fight. I understand that there are times you have to back off. Guild Arts taught me that, but this isn't one of those times. These guys have made an enemy of Fairy Tale. We have to teach them a lesson. We have to teach them the power of a wholehearted guild. Let's fight. Gee Gramps. Natsu uttered before falling unconscious. Natsu. Makarov shouted and Itachi rushed to help up the Dragon Slayer. With the real Itachi, I have to make it. I have to. Itachi thought as images of Mira kept flashing through his mind, images of Lizana, Mira and Elfman finally reunited, the image of him kissing Mira for the first time, the image of a smiling Mira calling his name. Mira. Itachi looked through his crow and saw Mira being beaten badly by this man named Azuma, that had even trapped Lizana having her wrapped up in some roots while there was a timer counting down. Mira was running out of magic power. Mira. Itachi thought and clenched his fists as he suddenly grew black markings on the right side of his face, similar to Sasuke's curse mark. With Mira and Lizana, Mira growled in frustration as the timer was counting down, and once it reached 0 Lizana would be blown up. She had tried fighting with everything she had left to spare of magic power in her Satan soul state. She saw that the timer was at 20 seconds left and flew towards Lizana, embracing her in a hug. What do you think you're doing? Azuma questioned. Mira nay. Lizana shouted. It's useless. Defeating me is the only way to stop it. Now, come. You haven't much time. Fight me seriously. Azuma demanded. I'm sorry. Mira turned back to her normal form. I hate to admit it, but I don't have enough magic power left to beat him. I can't do it as I am now. Mira nay. Lizana uttered as the timer reached 10 seconds left. But I have faith. Faith that there is someone in our guild who can defeat him. Mira said with a warm smile at her sister who had tears forming in her eyes. What are you saying, Mira nay? Lizana cried. What I'm saying, is that I'm admitting defeat, but there's nothing to worry about. I absolutely won't let you die a second time, Lizana. Mira said as the timer reached 0. But then the roots holding Lizana were cut in two and both the sisters were grabbed by a figure that leapt away from the explosion's radius. Mira Jane and Lizana weakly opened their eyes as the fiery smoke from the explosion burned behind them. Mira looked at the shadowy figure that rescued them. Itachi, Mira uttered weakly. Azuma widened his eyes in shock. He cut through the restraints. Itachi growled and released a black aura. He turned his head to the side to face Azuma. Itachi's face was covered in the black markings, his Sharingan glowing bright red, and veins bulging around his temple. Now you've done it. You've made me angry. Itachi growled. Somewhere on the island a young man with black hair and dark eyes, dressed in a black high-collar robe with golden trims, along with a large, flowing white toga draped around his torso, and a pendant around his neck. Finally, I am reunited with Natsu, only to find out that he's still too weak to kill me. How long must I wait? The man questioned in sadness, when he suddenly felt a surge of energy. This energy, is it him? No mistaking it, this dark yet calm and cold energy, Itachi Uchiha. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.